Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 66 today for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 4. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Bahrain Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see the rest of this one. But going into the Chinese Grand Prix weekend, we have that minor ERS update on the engine side of the R&D tree, and you can see really, compared to others, it's hardly noticeable there. Renault with it looks like a major update, I would say, and the same for Mercedes, trying to close up on Haas in the midfield kind of fight, where I say midfield, really, that entire top bunch is kind of one big top pack, and then you've got a midfielder, Toro Rosso, Force India, and Sauber, and then Williams are absolutely nowhere these days. But Toro Rosso have a small update as well as Haas actually with a minor update. You can just about see the incline on that slope, but McLaren and Red Bull staying put. So we might see a much faster Renault. Obviously, Renault were already pretty damn good at Bahrain, especially in qualifying of one-lap pace. So it'll be interesting to see how they go around China with that long back straight. And of course, Renault pretty good in the aero department on the R&D tree. But for us, with that ERS upgrade, I'm hoping that can be a little bolster. Of course, we've got the ultimate upgrade coming for the Spanish Grand Prix, so I have to wait a little bit until we maybe see major gains on the power side. But for now, going into Q1 there, you saw finishing our flying lap, pretty easy job just to get into Q2, no dramas there for us, and now we're into Q2 on a first set of ultra soft tyres there. We're not going to try this clever strategy of trying to qualify on the soft tyre, because obviously there's a 2-compound gap between the softest compound and the middle compound here at China, and it's just too much of a risk that I can't take. I don't think personally this car is fast enough to really get into Q3 on the soft tyre, so I just didn't even bother trying to make it through. We're just going to try and make it through on ultras, but to be fair, the ultra to medium tyre in the race has worked pretty well in the past. We just need to make sure that we're good enough on the tyres and easy on them in those our last 3 laps in the stint really. But we crossed the line then in Q2 at the moment, up into P3 there, and hopefully that's good enough to get us into the top 10 shootout. And by the time we end the session, it is going to be. We've slipped down to P8 though, Raikkonen up into P6, but still all that matters is we get into the top 10. You can see both Renaults make it through. HOCKENHEIM looking pretty damn good, and the top flight looking quite close between Ricciardo and Alonso. So we go into Q3 then though with the luxury of 2 sets of ultra soft tyres then to use and burn. So we go across the line for our first one lap there with a little bit of an extension on the exit of the corner, and at the moment we're in P3, but let's try and see if we can improve that time. I felt like I might have lost some time in Sector 3 especially, but there might be some time to be gained in Sector 1 as well. As you can see on the top right, kind of a bit of a yo-yo effect of red and green, so we're kind of losing some time here and there, but then getting it back in other parts of the Sector 1. So like I said, Sector 3 I think is where we're majorly gaining most of the time there, especially on the break into the hairpin. I felt maybe on the first lap I was a little bit too cautious maybe, so if we're a bit more aggressive into that hairpin, we can maybe gain some time. We do gain some time anyway on the swooping right hand, the kind of slingshot corner onto the back straight, and then we open up DRS of course, and just an easy run to the line. We're also going to actually quickly bump it to overtake mode on ERS there momentarily. Gives us a split second of extra ERS battery power. I don't know if it made any sort of difference, but psychologically I thought we might as well do that. And as we've been doing our lap, actually you can see on the top left we slipped down to P4, so we lost 1 position while sending this lap time, but an improvement here on the top right across the line, and it's actually going to be pole position at the Chinese Grand Prix. Raikkonen finishes his lap after me and gets up into P3. I think he might have been the one that displaced me down to P4 initially, but a really great day on Saturday for not only myself but also Raikkonen. He's not too far off there, only a couple of tenths, and so that's very good to see, and actually surprising really that this pace come out of nowhere really. Red Bull definitely didn't perform as expected. Verstappen also got knocked down Q2 anyway. He starts P11 though with a free choice of tyres, so that might be a blessing in disguise for the Dutchman. But very surprising turn of events here. I honestly thought it would be kind of more of a fight between McLaren, one of the Red Bulls, and maybe even the Renault with the upgrades they brought with a major update to really close the gap to us in the performance chart. But there you go. Sometimes F1's like that. You yo-yo around circuit to circuit, and I guess the Chinese Grand Prix definitely suits the Ferrari car, because both me and Raikkonen are right up there. So going to look forward to this race now, and obviously from pole position we'll be aiming to try and take home the race victory. Let's see how the tyre wear is though, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but definitely going to have a fun time into turn 1 on that one. So let's go into the intros then and go to the grid.
Ever since the Sauber of Felipe Massa passed Jenson Button into turn 1 at the very first Chinese Grand Prix in 2004, Shanghai has consistently provided close racing and extraordinary memories. It's where Lewis Hamilton effectively lost the title in his rookie year, and it's where Nico Rosberg claimed Mercedes' first win of the modern era in 2012. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before the braking zone of turn 14. Joining me for today's race once again is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. That was a great podium in the last race, so can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
With that then, let's run through the grid order. The engineer lines up on pole position, and it's Fernando Alonso in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Nico Hülkenberg, and Bottas, Sainz, Van Dorn, Hamilton, and Brendan Hartley, Verstappen, Magnussen, Pierre Gasly, and Leclerc, Grosjean, Ocon, Sergio Perez, and Marcus Ericsson, Stroll, and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Alright, so here we are on the grid then, on pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix. Rather gloomy day at the moment on Sunday, but there's going to be no rain forecast on the indicator. It's going to actually get sunnier as we get on through this race. And the strategy there, the default is a 2-stop to 2 sets of soft tyres. But if you've watched the previous episodes of the Chinese Grand Prix in F1 2018 career mode, you'll know that generally we try and go for the 1-stop. If we can stretch those ultras to minimum lap 7, lap 8, we can try and go in mediums into the rest of the Grand Prix. So it's going to be very crucial for us to protect the tyres at the start here. Obviously try and keep positions, but we need to also definitely protect the tyres more so. That's the more important part of this first stint of the race. So here we go then to 5 red lights to the Chinese Grand Prix from pole position, and we are underway and immediately aggressively moving to the right hand side to cover off Fernando Alonso very actively there, and Raikkonen gets a great getaway, and he's actually ran my outside into turn 1 out of nowhere like a torpedo on my outside, and Raikkonen's going to try and take the race lead away from me. I'm going to try and fight him, but he squeezes me into the curb and the grass a little bit, and Raikkonen really getting the elbows out there, and so he's up into the race lead. We're down to P2, so we did successfully cover off Alonso momentarily. He's actually going to try and attack us now on the left-hand side. We're going to squeeze him a little bit again on the left-hand side, try and defend our second position. So the plan worked. You know, I moved very aggressively to the right-hand side to block off Alonso. Little did I know, Raikkonen was going to get an electric start and then overtake me on the outside and get very, very harsh and a bit elbowy into that apex there. So he's kind of pushed himself and forced his way into P1. Fair play. So we're going to have to try and catch up to him now and see how it goes. But it's just brilliant to see a 1-2 for Ferrari then already in this Grand Prix as Daniel Ricciardo overtakes Alonso there up into P3. So Alonso struggling for maybe grip at the start of this Grand Prix. I don't know how he treated his ultra soft tyres in Q2, but clearly at the moment doesn't quite have the pace to be right up there. But he's going to try maybe attack Ricciardo. Will Ricciardo have the defensive stuff there to keep P3 for now? The Renault of Hulkenberg not too far behind as well, so both these guys have to be careful. They fight too much. Hulkenberg could just try and snap them up, but for now Ricciardo does defend and Alonso backs up into Hulkenberg. But we mentioned McLaren and Red Bull did not upgrade going into this weekend. Renault did with a major update, so let's see in race terms if Hulkenberg can now use that update to good measure in the next few laps to maybe pressurise Alonso. But as we move back to our POV onto lap 3, Raikkonen with the fast lap of the Grand Prix, but then we come straight in right after him with another fast lap of the Grand Prix then. So both of us pushing each other hard, and you can see on the mini-map there we're getting away from the entire pack. So at the moment, brilliant pace from both us Ferrari cars, and clearly the track is really suited to our car. So that's great news for us, and so hopefully we can carry on this pace as we go on. But hopefully I can try and catch Raikkonen rather than just us two kind of staying put as it is. But Hulkenberg, there he goes, trying to go out and make a move on the outside of Alonso. To be fair though, Alonso defends quite well into the hairpin, so he's going to have to try harder than that. Actually, they come in to the pit lane then for an early pit stop then. Obviously the ultras, if you're doing a 2-stop strategy, you're going to come in around lap 3 to 4 for your pit stop, and Raikkonen just does that. On lap 3 he's in, and so we are out into first place now. So a very early pit stop. It might seem crazily early, but that's what you need to do if you're going to try the 2-stop, because you need to make sure you get the undercut. Of course, for us, we're going to try and go as long as we can onto around hopefully lap 7 and try and protect these tyres. And so speaking of protecting tyres, look at this now. On lap 5, you can see that front left especially is getting a little bit lime green, a little bit yellow almost. And so we definitely need to back off now. And what you're about to see is quite tactical, you know, smart driving at the moment for myself, if I do say so, in this first stint. Backing off on purpose, trying to cool down these tyre temps. And by the time we get to lap 6 then, we literally do just that. Look at that now on the right-hand side, all nice and green. And we can afford to be a little bit slower now in this first stint. Remember, it's not necessarily about our gap to Magnussen or Verstappen behind. It's about the long-term thought of we've got a free pit stop ahead of Raikkonen, so we can afford to lose some time. As long as we can take these tyres to a good measure up to lap 7 or 8-ish, we'll be good. So, you know, taking the time I need to protect the tyres and, you know, be nice and calm on those. Meanwhile, second place is still Magnussen ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen, remember, on soft tyres, starting outside the top 10, so he's going to be in a prime position in this Grand Prix. Then you've got Pierre Gasly doing the same thing as me, actually, in the Toro Rosso on ultra soft tyres, trying to take those tyres long. Behind him then is Leclerc. You've got the likes of Grosjean, the 2 Force Indies, all on soft tyres. So all those guys are trying one-stops, as well as the Williams cars. And then we get to Kimi Raikkonen, the kind of first of the 2-stoppers. Obviously, my teammate there pit early on lap 3. He's on soft tyres now. He'll be pitting again for another set of soft tyres. So we just stick to the plan and we play it cool, and we do that pretty much to a T, because here we go. Lap 7, going to say box in this lap. You can see the rear tyres, the rear left especially, up to 67%. So I didn't think we should go on for one more lap. I probably could have, but I didn't want to risk it. You know, if there's a punch or if we go too slow in sector 2 maybe and lose way too much time on that in lap, didn't want to risk it. So we're going to come in lap 7. The mediums hold up quite a fair bit though around China. So we've done the hardest part of the weekend, to be honest, is trying to take those ultras as long as possible. Now it's an easier time. Just go on the mediums, hopefully not lose too much time in traffic, and just try and catch up to some cars, but then play it cool, because other people will be pitting again and going on behind us. So there's going to be a very, hopefully, measured, cool, calm head drive here in this cockpit of this Ferrari, and just try and be as composed as possible in this cockpit, as a double world champion would be, I guess you could say. But the only kind of major issue in our strategy will be those on the one-stop already, i.e. the likes of Verstappen. You saw Leclerc there as well. We saw the Sauber was pretty fast at Bahrain and held up Raikkonen, so you never know if we do happen to come out behind Leclerc or just get caught up with him. We don't need to, you know, we don't need that hassle. So that's the only caveat and worry for me in my mind, is those actual one-stoppers that have been on the soft tyres. They're going to have an advantage, because the ultras to softs, the soft tyre holds up much better, so they will be at an advantage in this first stint, or rather they were, as I was slowing down obviously on ultras. But we overtake the Williams car very easily there into turn 1, and now we're catching up to Carlos Sainz, who's trying to get past some traffic of his own as well. So hopefully we can try and navigate this with Sainz, but he's on soft tyres, he's on a 2-stop. So at the same time, I don't want to stick my neck in if I don't need to, but if I can try and overtake these cars, it'll be ideal just getting some more clean air. You can see on the minimap there is a definite bit of clean air ahead of, I think that's a Mercedes car of Valtteri Bottas, just ahead of Lance Stroll. So here we go now, right behind Carlos Sainz as he gets DRS off Lance Stroll. We get DRS as well, and we have a bit of a double toe now. We're going to try and go right on the outside of both cars there, of Sainz and Stroll. Stroll squeezes me a little bit on the left-hand side. We're going to try and just jockey for position to the next apex. So, almost got my front wing lopped off there. So I was very lucky. I just had this sense to back off that. I kind of sensed with my kind of spatial awareness that Stroll was right there, probably going to accelerate to the apex. And so instead, we dive down the inside of the next corner sequence to the end of sector 1, and we're going to make that overtake. And at the same time, actually, Carlos Sainz goes and does the overtake with me, and that's a little bit unfortunate, because Sainz now on the back straight has a good enough run. He has DRS himself now on myself, and I do not have any DRS, and so he's going to go right past us and use that upgraded Renault to maybe good effect as we lock up also on the right front tyre. That's not going to help, and so Sainz is back up ahead of us, and you know, of course, he's on soft tyre, so I'm not going to put up too much of a fight. I'm going to try and stick with him, but if I can't actually make an easy overtake on him, I'd rather just let him go, because he should, in theory, be faster than us anyway on those tyres. And remember, my race really isn't with Sainz anymore. It's with, well, either Raikkonen and also the likes of Verstappen and Leclerc, who are still out there on soft tyres on their one-stop from the beginning of this race. So I need to just make sure not to get in a fight that I don't need to be in, like this one with Sainz, because as we move on to the replay cameras, there is Verstappen then in first place effectively, with the 2 Haas in second and third. So the American outfit going pretty damn well. Obviously they've learned a thing or two from my time there in seasons 1 and 2. I mean, how often did we try and do one less stop in the race to try and get ahead of people? And that's exactly what they're doing now with Leclerc in P4, then the 2 Force Indies in P5, P6, P7 then is ironically number 7, Kimi Raikkonen, stuck behind the 2 Force Indies. So you can see what I mean now. The 2-stop, you know, in theory might be faster than the 1-stop, especially if you're going ultra to mediums. but the fact of the traffic around China is what really makes the strategy work. As Raikkonen here struggles to overtake the Force India cars in a straight line, so that probably kind of implies that we're still lacking some straight line speed in the Ferrari car, or the Force India still has some ridiculous straight line speed. Despite being the third worst car on the grid, somehow the Force India is still doing well to hold up my teammate in the form of Raikkonen there in the works Ferrari. But even worse is the McLaren pace, actually, because Vandoorne and Alonso are nose to tail, Vandoorne ahead of Alonso, and they're both outside the top 10. They've had no race pace in this entire thing. From Alonso, from the front row of the grids, he's been nowhere. I don't know where that race pace has gone, but it's just nowhere to be seen. So we'll have to update you on that and see how they go. But as we move on now to lap 13, and it's going to be a very important lap because Verstappen's come in for his pit stop, the leader from the Grand Prix. He's on the one stop from soft to medium, and here he comes now. Can we overtake him? He's very crucial that we get this overtake done right now into turn 1, because if we get ahead of him, we're effectively into P1 as we go down the inside. Verstappen really gets the elbows out and squeezes us, and our front left tyre got caught on his front wing there. We're still neck and neck. He just about gets it. We slot in behind. Hamilton also pressurizes us from behind. We're going to get the slipstream. We're going to go diving around the outside then to the end of sector 1. Go the long way around. It will turn to the inside for the next S section. So here we go. Plant the power. Hot lap mode. We're neck and neck into the S section, and we're going to keep our footing on the right hand side on the loud pedal, and we're going to get up into what effectively will be, remember, a net P1 in this Grand Prix, because Verstappen was leading the way, but now I've got ahead of him. So we should be up into P1 once everyone makes their pit stops. We go on to lap 15, and we got some people making those pit stops, and we're up into P3 now, and the only runners left are Carlos Sainz and Valtteri Bottas in P1 and P2 respectively. So the job at hand at this phase of the Grand Prix is just to hold station and try and keep Verstappen at bay, because he's very punchy at the moment. That Red Bull car, remember, technically is the best car on the grid on paper on the performance chart, and he's going to actually come at us quite rapidly in sector 1. He's got all the speed in the world there in a straight line, probably up into hot lap mode and overtake mode, I would say, as Verstappen now tries the same move we did on him, basically, around the outside there, and he's got a very good one. We're in hot lap mode ourselves, we just don't have the speed on the exit there. The Red Bull got some disgustingly good traction there on the right-hander, and he's ahead of us now into the S section. I'm going to try and keep up with Verstappen if I can, but remember, he's on much fresher mediums. I've been on these tyres now for a fair old laps now, and so even though the Ferrari might have an advantage in a straight line through the corners, Verstappen can try and pull away, and unfortunately for us now, in the next 2 laps, lap 16 to lap 18, he does just that, and he's trying to grow this gap at the moment from P1 to P2. He's still within touching distance. We can see him up ahead, so he's not waltzed away, but he has definitely grown the gap. So I was getting a little bit down and a little bit demoralised in the cockpit, I can't lie, on lap 18 onto lap 19 here, and I thought maybe the wind was completely blown, and that was my one and only chance to defend from him to try and keep the race victory. But then little did I know, on lap 22 now, I knuckled down, and after saving the tyres a little bit and recomposing myself, I push hard, and we're starting to catch back up to Verstappen. By lap 22 now, we're back in his DRS zone. So, you know, almost like real life Formula 1 there for a second. You know, lap 16 to 18 to even 20, we just took it calm, let the car kind of cool things down, cool the car down, cool the tyres down, get them back in a working range, I guess you could say, and then we pushed hard again, just like you sometimes see the real life drivers having to do when they hit a signal on the radio that you have to back up and get out of the 1 second zone to get out the dirty air. Basically, we just did that, and actually it kind of worked almost in a way, to my surprise, because we started to gain back on him, and so much so that now we're well within his grasp, and we've got DRS and the speed enough to make a move to the inside of the hairpin there. Easy on the brake zone. Both of us lock up, but Verstappen definitely with a more horrendous lock up into the hairpin, but he's still in P1. Good defensive work there on the outside, but we kind of set up the move now because I want to actually get him into turn 1, because it's so easy to be re-overtaken on this main pit straight after you've done a move on the back one. So we're going to try and get the move done into turn 1 now, onto lap 23 with DRS open, ERS going into the inside, and Verstappen tried to push us hard and squeeze us to the apex, but in the end we're going to have that, and we're up into the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix once more. A great sequence of corners and a great sequence of laps from lap 16 to lap 23 now. It's been a long process of, you know, getting overtaken initially and then winding up, getting the confidence back, getting the composure back, and getting the lead effectively, finally, of the Chinese Grand Prix back from Verstappen. And so in P3 and 4 is actually the 2 Haas cars there. They're actually catching up now as Verstappen struggles to keep up with me, and we can get the real pace down in clean air. Behind them is then the Sauber, surprising, of Charles Leclerc, actually ahead of Ricciardo and Raikkonen. So Leclerc doing a fabulous job in that Sauber on the 1 stop there. And then behind that gaggle are the 2 Renaults of Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg being the lead Renault at the moment in this Grand Prix. Both of them might be hoping that this battle between Daniel Ricciardo and Charles Leclerc goes on for long enough that they hold each other up so they can catch up, because Ricciardo is past Leclerc with DRS there on the back straight, but it's a lock up there, and we can't really see the front tyres, but Ricciardo definitely going wide, and Leclerc down his inside into the hairpin, so the two now side by side. Can Leclerc hang that round? No, he can't, so he remains behind Ricciardo, so Ricciardo got away with that, because it looked like he had to give up the position, but then onto the pit straight. What did I say? It's so easy to re-overtake the car that's just overtaken you into turn one, and that's exactly what Leclerc does, and so the Sauber putting up a fantastic fight there to keep that well-deserved P6, that he's got into with that one stop. Meanwhile, now we've got Hülkenberg overtaking Raikkonen, and up ahead you can see again Ricciardo and Leclerc are at it, but Hülkenberg trying to get the move done on Raikkonen. He does so. So very contrasting races then to the end of this thing, as obviously I'm leading the way, and Raikkonen is now struggling on those soft tyres, and he's fallen behind into a bit of a Renault sandwich as again Leclerc defends from Ricciardo into turn one and gets the place back. So how long will this go on for? Back and forth between Leclerc and Ricciardo. Probably long enough that maybe that Renault might just come and try and get both of them in one foul swoop. But meanwhile, still all's well with our two Haas cars. They're actually nearly nose to tail. Both of them showing some exceptional pace, I've got to say, really. They not look like they're being touched by the cars behind them. And in fact, they're actually catching Verstappen, who's falling away now from myself. And so Verstappen might be losing some pace with some tyre wear there. And so the two Haas cars, they haven't really been fighting this entire race. So they might be in a good position to overtake Verstappen and make a late podium charge, as now Sainz goes down the inside of Raikkonen, and so that's pretty much the final nail in the coffin, I think, for Kimi. So yeah, from third place on the grid, got into first place in the first stint, and now he's completely nowhere near the race win. So pretty gutting for Raikkonen. So he's going to have to hopefully come back in the next one, but I don't think this one's going to be for him. But now Leclerc has actually fallen behind finally of Ricciardo. He's finally got him. I would say, eventually, even though Leclerc was putting up a great fight, that Red Bull car should be fast enough to get him. So eventually he does so, and he's actually going to fall into the clutches also of the Renault of Hülkenberg eventually. So the Renaults are now flying. Actually, I can tell you that the Renaults have been setting the fast laps of the Grand Prix now in clean air on these medium tyres. So the Renault upgrades definitely have worked. It's just a case of, I think, Renault still as a team haven't got it all together in terms of the qualifying and the race package. But once they do, I think that Renault could be a big dark horse in this season. So you can kind of hold me to that word later on in this season for the future episodes. But now we watch a fight between the Haas and the Red Bull car. It's going to be Romain Grosjean round the outside, and he's going to be up into second place of the Chinese Grand Prix. So Verstappen is falling at the very late stages of the Grand Prix. But we move on to our POV. We're going to forget about all of that and focus back onto ourselves, because we're on the last lap of the Grand Prix and we're heading towards a win at the Chinese Grand Prix in great fashion. A very composed, mature drive there to overtake Verstappen in that middle part of the race. And this is quite, big and poetic in a way. We came in Formula 1 as a Ferrari Junior, went to Haas. We come to Ferrari as a double world champion, but here we go, our first win in the red Scuderia Ferrari car. It's a big moment for us, and there's nothing more to say but grazie ragazzi, forza Ferrari.
Nice work, that's P1, race win, well done.
Here's our winner, pulling their Ferrari into Parc Fermé. What a fantastic race it was. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
So here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
Before we get to the full race results, a quick replay then and a look at the last lap of the Grand Prix, because there's a lot of fighting going on here with Magnussen getting up into P3 down the inside of Verstappen there, and that's why it was a double Haas podium. Really actually quite nice and fitting how the podium was me and my old team Haas there. Really, really nice in a way. The first team in my career mode was up there on the podium for my first win in the senior team, I guess you could say. And now we're watching on board with Ricciardo trying to overtake Verstappen there on the right hand side of the camera, and also Hülkenberg trying to overtake overtaken in the last minute, so Verstappen falling prey to 2, maybe even 3 cars, because Leclerc is down the inside of Verstappen as well. Ricciardo maybe trying to help his teammate a little bit by blocking the Renault, but Ricciardo gets up into P4 then, with Hülkenberg P5 in the end, in the last corner, and Leclerc is going to go side by side with Sainz, and Sainz overtakes Leclerc on the last corner of the last lap. So great stuff there from the Spaniard to finish off a really strong points-paying positions for the Renault guys in P5 and P6. Eventually, Verstappen is knocked down, way down the order, but there you have it then. After that race victory, the lead of the Drivers' World Championship here, but remember, it's only round 3. It's very early days. We have 18 more rounds to go, and we've seen so far 3 different winners in 3 races: Ricciardo, Alonso, myself. And how strong did Alonso look last race? And today, he was absolutely nowhere. So I really do think that this season might be a very odd one. You know, we've had this R&D reset. This might be a season where we see a lot of flip-flopping of team performances as they kind of suit to different circuits, depending on what they've been able to cobble together and save from the R&D of last season and how good their engine power is. But for now, it's going well in the world of the Constructors and Drivers' Championship. But let's go on to the final interview then with Claire before we round out the episode.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. Was there really any competition for you today?
This was a really odd question because it by no means was an easy race. Verstappen gave me a real big fight, so I found it a bit odd, but just for the sake of complimenting the team, I'm going to say they're on fire, get the kind of morale nice and up there for Ferrari.
You must be thrilled to be up on the podium.
Obviously, the team's put a lot of faith in me, you know, waiting a whole year to put me in this car, but I've got to deliver, and we have delivered so far now in round 3 for the Chinese Grand Prix.
You're leading the championship. Are you happy to be there or feeling the pressure?
One of these questions I hate getting. You know, it's so early in the championship. Every race is important and unique, so we need to keep it up, and that's going to be a morale boost there.
Things are looking up after last week, aren't they?
And of course, compared to Bahrain, bit of a better time for me personally, especially in qualifying there. Got to put that down to maybe the power unit upgrades we had on the ERS front there. Morale boost for the power unit team.
Appreciate your time.
And so after complimenting all the guys and gals back at Maranello in the interview pen, it's time to end out the episode, guys. So if you did enjoy that episode and our very first win at Ferrari, be sure to smash that like button, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.